Hello and welcome to the Dragons Lair podcast. I'm Jamie and joining me as always is Gavin Thomas. How are we doing, Gav?
I'm all right, Jamie, but I was thinking this morning, you know how we said we were going to have a quiet summer and we weren't going to do many pods?
Yeah, it hasn't happened, does it? It
No.
hasn't happened at all. It really hasn't happened. Yeah, we've been so busy recording that special guest podcasts, to be fair, and they've gone down a storm. So yeah, so much for that summer break, Gav. Eh? We are available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. So, Gav, do you remember last season you said you wanted to speak to community clubs?
hmm
That was a wish of yours, wasn't it? Want to
Yeah,
speak to somebody from
absolutely.
the community game. Well, this week is your lucky week because we're going to do that. We're focusing on community rugby and in particular new Tredegar RFC. So, last season, the WRU announced that New Tredegar, as well as St Julian's RFC, were removed from Division 4 East after failing to fulfil their fixtures for the season, and they were told by the union, should they wish to return to the National League pyramid, then they will do so at the lowest possible level. So, the club are doing just that. They have a long-term plan and a strategy to get them back on track and climbing up the leagues. And joining us to chat more on this is the club's head of media and sixth choice hooker. His words, not mine, just to add. It's Steff Prosser. Steff, how are we doing, mate?
I'm not too bad. How are you two? I've done the opposite as well because I do a podcast. I've done the opposite. I said I'm going to spend all summer like revamping it, changing it, and I've done absolutely nothing to it at all. So you're doing better than me, but you got it the right way round.
Excellent stuff. Right, let's talk New Tredegar then. So, what were the primary factors then, Steff, for New Tredegar's demotion? Tell us the story. What happened?
It's one of those things that came just after COVID as well. Not that
Mm.
long ago, we were a thriving club. I mean, 12 years ago, I think it was, we made it to the final in the stadium. We had 34 players. We took to a seconds game that season where the first were playing home. So
Yeah.
we were literally thriving, a youth and a minis team. Slowly it dwindled, which I think is a true of most clubs at the minute. It's what we're seeing throughout the community game is clubs are struggling with players. But we were still doing okay. We were still holding our own. We were fighting in Division 4. I say on the back of COVID, we lost a few people, and it meant that we couldn't fulfill some fixtures, partly down to numbers. We did struggle with numbers last season, and then partly down to being hit by the weather. We had games we called off because the weather was that bad, and
Mm.
essentially it created a bit of a time bomb. We had less time left than we had availability to fit games in, and it meant we couldn't fulfill our fixtures, and that's what the decision that the WRU come to was to demote us down the leagues and also to withhold the club grant that we get each year. So it's left us sort of out of pocket quite massively as well. We kind of understand the decision to drop down the leagues and but financially we've been hit quite hard by it also.
Mm. Go on, Gav. Sorry, what was
I,
you going to say?
I was just going to say, for the people who don't know the club, tell us something about the club. How long has it been going? What are the facilities like? Where the hell
Uh,
is New Tredegar?
I was going to say that's a good start. And if not from the top end of the valleys, where do we find you? The number of people who come here and say, "Oh, it's nice to be in Tredegar," and you're like, "No, listen now, but let's start again. Let's go back to where we started." I can't remember which band come here and said it's always good to play in England, and you're like, "Right, you can go. That's you done." No, we're a village club. We one who, to be fair, have always punched above our weight. We started sort of in the 70s, set up by a bit of a local community legend. Someone who used to work for the WRU, Raymond Muldoon Davis. Anyone who knows rugby in the valleys will know Mull. And a couple of others. And they say the club has really thrived. They've played in the National Stadium before that. They played in the Millennium Stadium. We've always hit well above where we should be, really.
Mm.
Um, in terms of facilities, we've got a pitch and we've got some changing rooms and we've got a clubhouse, and you can't ask for much more than that. I would say we're one of the lucky ones. We're in the valleys. We've got quite a scenic pitch as well. We're
Yeah.
set in the middle of the valley. We've got hills on both sides. There's usually some sort of bird of prey or other, floating around. We've had kids we're playing minis games, so we've got to get their heads back on it because they're watching the buzzards up above us. We're typical what you'd expect of a local village rugby team, but we've always prided ourselves on being able to compete at the level higher than we should be, and I think that's we want to get back to. That's what we're striving for as well.
Yeah. You touched on it briefly there, Steff, but how much of an impact has this demotion had on the club in terms of finances, sponsorship, retaining and recruiting players? Has it been hit really hard?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword. We have been hit hard, and especially sort of by the financial aspect of it. As I said, sort of, I don't know who knows the community game that well, but you get given payments based on how many teams you put out there. So first teams, second teams, minis and juniors, women's teams, and you get paid a grant with regards to that. You get a second payment as well. Essentially, we've lost £4,000 this year by not being able to fulfill those fixtures. So it means coming in this summer, £4,000 in the hole before we even start. What it has meant is everyone banding together. This club, you talk about what kind of club is it? It's very much sort of the heart of the community, and that's really showed because the people who've banded together for this, who've come back together, players coming out of retirement, players coming into training, businessmen who've sort of put themselves in there and joined the rugby committee that we've set up. So we've now got a rugby committee alongside the club committee. We've got sort of established companies that we think, so people like Dragon Signs and Root Media coming in to help us out, Philly Lettings, also sort of big things, but local companies like Stevely Windows who've not only helped us out with their knowledge and their background, but sort of financially as well to step on board as sponsors. It's been fantastic, really. The response is I would say exactly what we would expect, even bigger than we would have expected. And I think it's really helped to bond the boys as well. We've turned up to training. Training's really hard, but you remember what you're doing it for. You're pulling our shirt back on and doing it for the badge. And I think it has been a double-edged sword. It has been, no one ever wants to, especially the financial side. And I say we've gone down to Division 6 East. I think it could be B. I'm not bothered by the letter, but it does mean that there's only 6 of us in the league now, with Trevel have unfortunately also folded. So what that means is not just that we've lost that money, but we're losing gates this season because, we've only got those 5 home league games now to try and bring a bit of cash in as well, whether it be on the gate or selling beers after the game. So it is quite difficult in that sense. But as I say, it has been good. The atmosphere around the club it's really brought everybody together, and it's probably the best atmosphere we've had since that sort of 10, 11, 12 years ago when we were competing both in the seniors and in the seconds. So it's a good place to be at the minute. It really feels like a nice place, and I think people want to really prove people wrong who thought that we were dead and buried on the back of it.
So have you lost a lot of your players from last season? Are there players that are like, I can't be playing Division 6 rugby?
No, we found the opposite, really. We've had some players leave. We've had some players who felt that they were better than that, and that may well be the case. And so we'll always support them. We'll always want players to play at the highest level that they possibly can. We've also had players stepping down some divisions because of the plight we're in, because they've seen an opportunity. Charlie Davis was playing for Bargood last year. He was in the Dragons under 16s team not that long ago. He's 18, 19 now, and he's decided to move away from Bargood because Raymond Muldoon Davis that I mentioned earlier is his grandfather, and this is his grandfather's baby as much as he is. And so he said, no, I want to come back, and I want to get New Tredegar back up there, and whether that be for a season or 2 seasons or he stays the rest of his playing career, he's made that decision himself that he wants to come back. It's not been a case of coaxing players and twisting arms. And I know some clubs in the past would have maybe paid players to come here and sort of say, we're not that club. We want players who want to come out. And I sorry, the name drop Mull at every sentence. Mull wouldn't let us pay players anyway. He's the tightest man in the club. We're not paying anybody if it's down to him. He wouldn't even pay travel expenses. So, what we've seen actually is quite a lot of players who are playing in those higher divisions say, well, I want to go and help this club out. This is my club. This is where my heart is. We had a few people who were coaches who said, oh, I want to come back, but I've committed elsewhere. Otherwise, we would have brought a few of those back as well. And we've seen, as I said, boys come out to retirement, or boys who were one step out the door actually say, no, actually, I can't walk away now and come back in. And we struggled a little bit for hookers in the past couple of years, and we've seen but Luke Howell Evans, Pies as he's known within the club, he's come back out. He's hit the gym over the past sort of few months and dropped an incredible amount of weight, and unfortunately broke his hand in pre-season, but you know, hopefully in the next week or two we'll have him back and available as well. You know, it's been a brilliant response, and you know, it's really helped. And our numbers are looking healthy. We're running 30-something players now at the moment, whereas last year in training we were lucky to get sort of 6, 7, 8 maybe.
You were saying earlier about clubs paying. Do you think that's something that's had an impact on the grassroots game? Because if I just think about the clubs in that part of the world, so like I said, Trevel have folded, Tredegar have folded. You know, Tredegar were playing first-class rugby 35, 40 years ago. So why do you think the grassroots game in Wales is struggling then, Steff? You know, you're up to your neck in it. I'm involved in the grassroots game, but in England. Well, why do you think it's struggling in Wales?
I think that has been the case with some clubs. I won't mention anything. I know I spent a lot of time over Tredegar as well. It was kind of our second team. You know, we'd watch New Tredegar when they were home. If New Tredegar were playing away, we'd nip up to Tredegar mostly because my old man was able to get in free on a dodgy season ticket. But maybe that's what's wrong with the Welsh game. Perhaps that's what's
Oh, you know, I never used to go and pay. I can remember going to watch Cardiff with my dad in the 80s, and we'd go to the turnstile, he'd pay, and he'd say he doesn't need to pay, does he? And I'd be about 12 at the time. He'd
He's got a beard. But I think that has been the plight of some clubs, not so much the paying when they couldn't afford to. I think some clubs paid players who weren't local to the club and then left when things didn't quite work out for them. And it meant it upset the players who had been there previously, who said, well, I'm not going back there. They replaced me with someone from outside. You know that Welsh mentality of, this is my little local area, and anyone who's from more than 20 minutes away, I don't want anything to do with them. And so once some clubs did that, they sort of painted themselves into a corner because the boys that were there and happy before didn't want to come back because actually they hadn't been treated the way they should be treated. I think obviously there's always the issue as well, sort of times change a little bit. It used to be that at a patriarchal society, we still are, but it was even more so, it was you were Saturday too, we wanted to. Men worked all week, they went out on a Saturday, they had a few pints, they went out with the boys, and you would lose a Saturday. That's not sort of the case anymore. As we've got kids ourselves, we know what it's like, and you go on a Saturday, you spend time with them, you spend time with your partner, you committed to your family as much as you are anything else now. And so I think that makes it a little bit more difficult, that you're not just available every week for 8 hours a day, because we all know that you don't turn up and just play a game of rugby. Now you go for a dodge the warm-up, play the game, got to have a pint or two after because hydration is key, and then suddenly it's 12 o'clock at night and you're up on a dance floor singing Sweet Caroline or whatever you're doing. And the culture has changed to not make that as easy as possible. And also, people with jobs now, it's a little bit difficult. It's where, you're taking a bump, you're taking a hit. I think we've seen people get bigger and the hits get stronger as rugby's changed a little bit, and those bumps and those aches and those pains. I used to say, I train on a Tuesday, ache on a Wednesday, I train on a Thursday, ache on a Friday, play Saturday, ache Sunday, Monday, and then we're back to training again. So I think people have got to be a little bit more sensible on that front as well now, where you can't be as lackadaisical and maybe as people used to be in the past, where people are a little bit more wary. And so I think it's natural with a very physical game we've got. I do think we've got that issue of sort of other things pulling us away as well, especially with people coming through the system, youngsters coming up and playing. They've got more options than they ever had. There's clubs for just about everything. For when I was a kid, you did football, rugby, or some sort of karate, and then there wasn't really anything else in the valley. Now there's so much you can do, and everything seems more accessible. You can get places easier, and that's without being I'm not going to be the old guy who says, and everyone's online now and playing games, because I go online and play games sometimes as well. So I'm not going to. But that is also true. It was a bit harder to pull you away from the game when the only thing you had was like Pac-Man. Whereas now, people are fully invested. Esports in itself is its own thing, so it's not looked down upon the way that they used to be. And so people are embracing it a little bit more as well.
But and I think what you said about travel is actually an important part of it, because when I was a kid, you just played for the team in your valley, because why the hell would you go a couple of valleys across? Because there'd be 2 clubs or 3 clubs, rather many in your valleys, but it doesn't work like that now, does it?
No, we're very much at a time where everything feels closer. I can say, my partner's from the northeast. We spend sort of usually about 1 weekend a month traveling to Newcastle. It blows like my father's mind that we would go that far.
Yeah.
My father met my mother. They're about 3 minutes away from each other by car. They used to walk up and down an hill to go on a date when they were 16. Now, like the idea of traveling that far and being with but now it's just natural. It's normal.
Yeah, no, my mother was from Markham, my dad was from Ebervale. It was almost like, kind of crossing the Berlin Wall to travel that far in the 60s.
Long distance relationship.
Yeah, but that has shrunk, hasn't it? Now, and like you say,
absolutely.
everything's more accessible. Going out to Cardiff, going out to Newport, Swansea, wherever on a weekend was a hell of a job. You required somebody to hire a minibus, and then but it's not like that anymore, is it? There's trains, there's everything else. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Steff, you mentioned community earlier. Are there any upcoming events or initiatives aimed at rallying a bit more community support? Have the club got anything planned?
Yeah, we're always looking for things to do. We've got a few things in the pipeline now. So whether it be sort of just bringing bands to within the club is kind of the old-fashioned way you're doing it, I think. But we've got a few events coming up. I won't spoil anything for now because it's still going through our rugby committee at the moment. We've got a few things. We've also managed to, I think that the bigger thing as well has been engaging people through social media, using that online presence to our advantage. And sort of we've done a few things through TikTok. We've had a few players come down as well. So Chris Digamidis came down, Richie Reese has been to the club, putting that presence out there, like them talking about us, them talking about what we're going through. We've got Alex Cuthbert and Gareth Hanscom coming down over the next couple of months to do a few training sessions and help us out. So I think that's been a big help as well, to show people that actually, we set out when we first, the Dean Jones, who's kind of, I don't know what his official title is, but he's kind of running the rugby committee side of things. He said, I want to be the most professionally run amateur club in Wales. And I think that's the way we've looked at it completely. And, he's got connections throughout the game. He's sponsored clubs at the highest level. He's involved in everything. Fair play to him. He's never not working, I don't think, except even when he's on holiday, which is a lot, to be fair to him. That our plan is to be exactly that, to run the same way that a professional level club would run. And I think the way you do that, as I say, is engaging people in everything else as well, engaging them on a match day. We've got a new program coming out that we're hoping to digitalize, so it'll be a digital match day program rather than the old paper copies we used to have out. It's just that making us look a bit more professional, to engage people and say, actually, we've moved forward. We're embracing 2024. This is the club as it is now. And that's been important as well. But with the change of the badge, we've got 2 badges this year, perfect for a Dragons podcast. Look, so we've got the old badge, which I was reliably informed is actually the 3rd badge that we've had. And the first one was an actual newt holding a rugby ball. Then we changed to the first iteration of the badge we've got now, and then this iteration, which is the quarters, for anyone who knows the new Tredegar badge. So that's still on there, but we've also got a phoenix with the same 4 quarters sort of underneath it, showing that rising from the ashes, the re-rise of the club sort of into our next generation. And I think that embodies everything that we're trying to do, to be honest.
Who designed that new badge then, Steff?
Again, that's one of Dean's. That's one of Dean Jones's. Again, done professionally. The original one was done by just people in the club, players for the club. Yeah. And we've had that for a long time. And I'll be honest, there was a little bit of controversy when there was talks of a new badge, because people are so connected to it, and some of the boys have got it tattooed. That's how much the club means to them. So when you talk about how we're going to change the badge, we've had to say, so it's where the idea of double badging it comes from, and really showing that connection between the past of the club and the future of where we go in. And I think that is exactly what we need.
And stuff like that can be tricky. My club changed our club colours about, when was that? 12 years ago now. And honestly, you'd swear we'd gone out and set fire to people's houses. Like, it's...
Well, there was a lot of... Well, but you can't change the badge. The badge is the club. I said, well, no, it's not. Like, this is the club. Like, the boys who were sat here, the boys who were out on the training pitch, the atmosphere after the game, that's the club. And then weirdly, it's kind of that middle band. So the older people in the club that I thought would be the resistant ones are actually the ones who are saying, yeah, let's embrace it. Let's do the new badge, we'll take it on, and then the kids love it.
Yeah.
So the least scary nickname in the Ula Rugby, we the Newt, right? Everyone chants it on as Newt, go on, Newt, 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 right, all the way through. And then someone would say, one of the kids said, why are they chanting Newts with the Phoenix now? And I thought, like, right, the kids have embraced it. And then the older members of the club, it's that sort of middle. But yeah, like you said, it is, people feel so attached to it. It means so much more than just a badge for them, that.
I would argue, though, it's not the least impressive or least scary nickname. Rye Rugby Club, which is down the road from me, is called the Goons. Because Spike Milligan lived down that way.
But some brilliant ones as well. It's like the Black Army, like, sounds so good. And then Merthyr women's team are called the Iron Maidens, which is like
I love that. I like that.
Unbelievable. And then we're called the Newt. Like, it's not striking fear in anyone's heart, is it?
Not really, no.
But I love it, and I do think that kind of sums us up as well as a club.
Yeah.
We haven't got the fancy nickname, we haven't got the over the top sort of thing. We are the Newts. That's who we are, and we get on with it. And I do love us for it.
I hope there's someone dressed as a Newt on the touchline.
We've got a Newt costume, Newt and the Newt.
Right, so you're the head of media at New Tredegar RFC. It all sounds very professional, as you mentioned. You are trying to be professional. So what does that involve exactly, and Steff? What do you do for the club?
I've been asking myself that for about 2 months now since I got told that was my job. And I did get told, by the way. I was sort of in a separate meeting, and I got come in the room a minute, and I came in, and they were like, "This is the rugby committee," and I said, "Yeah, boys, very, very good. You're doing a great." And they went, "Oh, you're in charge of media now, by the way, because we liked all the stuff that you've done before." I was like, "Hang on, what?" But it is sort of, at the moment, it's mostly controlling that Instagram, that TikTok, that Twitter. We're doing a lot of social media stuff. We're creating videos. Hopefully, we're hoping to ramp that up as well over the next couple of weeks. And obviously, when the season kicks off this week, creating some highlights packages, seeing what we can put together.
Yeah.
Again, it's creating that connection. It's allowing fans to access things, and it sounds crazy to say it at this level, but people do want to see what goes on behind the scenes. People do want to know what's happening. People do want to see sort of what the experience is on a match day, because I would say it's a unique experience, community level rugby. So to offer that little something and show it, it's been really popular. We did not allowed to bring a kit bag, and it was literally anything bar a kit bag was out at me club. And the boys, and everyone has got their personality within this. So one of them's turned up with sort of their kid's little Barbie princess backpack. One of the boys has got a massive fishing net that's about 7 foot long with his kit in it. One of the boys has got a 10 bag of rubble that he's got his boots in. And it kind of sums them all up perfectly. Essentially, the job is connecting with the fans, is creating that content, it's offering them something to get them on board and show them. So being a fan as well, you're not just a fan on a Saturday, you're a fan always. And so it's having that connection through the week as well. So we've kind of put the sponsors out there this week. We've shown players numbers. We've announced our captain this week, who's Craig Thomas has taken over, who's a fantastic servant for the club, and actually spoke very well and very eloquently when asked what it would mean to him to be captain, and that's gone out this week as a full video of essentially his reply. What would that mean to you? And he's given us pages and pages of reply that's exactly what that is. And he's really shown what the club mean to people, and especially people. And he was another one who was sort of, I won't guess at how old Craig is, but he's in his mid-30s, we'll say. And so he was kind of in the thing of, I'm going to wind down a little bit. And if anything, this has prolonged him. And
he's a youngster, mid-30s.
I'd agree. I'd agree, especially for a 10. He's got a good 10 years left in him yet.
I played with a 10 who only retired a couple of years ago. He was 62 when he retired.
But only a couple of years younger than you, Gav.
So you talked about your players there. So who are the players at New Tredegar then that we should be looking out for? Who are going to be the ones who are going to kind of rise you back up these leagues? No pressure, but you're going to have to.
I was going to say, this feels harsh now, because this feels like you're dropping me right in it.
A bit.
Not like you. Cheers, Gav. No, say we've got the old heads in here like Craig, who's been around the block a few times and knows exactly what he's doing. Is fantastic at controlling things from 10. Ricky Hawkins will always be sort of a fan favourite down here. He's sort of a big ball carrier in the centre. I thought I not always the cleverest Ricky. I'm going to say, and I'm hoping he's listening to this now. But lovable, great guy, and a fantastic rugby player to boot. We got Ian Breen, who's electric, and Marcus Davis sort of in the back three. Yeah, Ian's out at the moment, but he's come back to us this year. But he's damaged his ankle in pre-season. We hope to get him back. Said Charlie Davis we got coming in there was going to play open side. He's played with the Dragons Academy. He's playing with Barcode Seconds, and he's taken a step down. Morgan Davis was Player of the Year last year, and then we've got players like Connor Roberts who's taken a step up. You know, young boys who perhaps would have taken a year or two longer to come in here, but in the circumstances we did, they sort of got dropped in at the deep end last year and swam. You know, it looked absolutely fantastic and have really stepped up. Connor to the point of he's joined our leadership team this year. So how quickly he's come through that system to perform is fantastic. And I've got to, like, as you know as well, it's more than just your individual players. It's the sum of your parts, and that's what they've all got. You know, to see the boys connected. Reece Challoner has also come back to us out of retirement, and a fantastic 9. He said to me sort of the other week, like, the club is back. This is the club. This is the club I knew. This is the club I loved. The club is back, and that's what it feels like. And that comes from that. That comes from the players all buying in. And you know, we talked about the professionalism, and that's there. But we've also got sort of the boys being the boys, and coached by some fantastic coaches. We've got a new coaching setup in Warren Davis, Timothy Scarf, who's also coaching rugby league at age grade level for Wales. And then Bulldog, Julian Willett has stepped up, who was perhaps one of the best props we've had in recent years, has stepped up to do some forwards coaching and is currently going through his coaching journey. So, yeah, it feels really good to have not just those players, but a squad again and a club again and a team again. So, yeah. But I want to know who's the one who's going to surprise as well. There's going to be someone who's going to step up that we're not expecting. I wouldn't say that much of a surprise because watching the boys in training, none of them look out to their depth.
And juniors and minis, is that thriving at the club? Did that always kind of keep going?
Yeah, we've had a little bit. So we've lost our youth team this year. We had a bit of an issue with sort of age splits and that. We ended up with not quite enough to fulfill a full squad at our youth. So they've merged with Bargood Youth at the moment because Bargood's just up the road. But it does mean them coming back, playing a few games, and then hopefully sort of when we hit senior level, some of those boys coming back down to play for us. And as I said, you know, we always want the best for those boys as well. So if any of them are good enough to step up to that level and play it at the level that Bargood's at, then, you know, hopefully good luck to them that they'll make it as well. I think the one thing we've always been spectacular at is the girls' game as well. So we've now got our own hub. So I know the Welsh community game with the girls are a little bit different, and so there's hubs of people that they were part of the Jesters, I believe. We had so many players that we were supplying to the Jesters that we actually applied to the WRU to become our own hub. And originally we were a satellite hub, which meant that we were still part of the Jesters, but people could come here to play games and to train. We've now outgrown that, and there's 2 girls teams at their age grade playing. So we've now got our own hub that's A and B because we've got that many years. So it's good to see the game is thriving. Under 7s is our youngest team, under 14s is our oldest, and then when we look at the girls' game, we've got a 14s and a 16s as well for after the split. So yeah, it is thriving. It is very good at the minute. And we used to struggle in the past that when we hit sort of under 13s because of that split, because the boys and girls split, we kind of struggled with where to go. But we're finding more and more that actually that's not the case now. We're actually, because we've got those hubs, we can put the girls into the hubs, and we've got enough boys that we can still maintain a team to take through. So we're really hopeful that we can take those right through to junior level and under 18s, and then, you know, get them playing in the senior squad. As long off as that seems, that's literally how long term the planning has become, and that's what we've been able to do this season. I think we run like most community clubs did, where you kind of deal with that immediate season ahead and what do we do for this year, and then we'll worry about next season.
Mm.
Now what we're looking at is we've got that in place because we needed it to survive, but we've also got that long-term plan where we're looking 5, 6, 7 years into the future.
But I think that thinking has changed as well, hasn't it, in the Valley's game? Because it used to be you didn't have to plan for the future because you'd always have a team and there was no,
Yeah.
but then if you think of the Valley's teams, I'm just like top of my head from my part of the world. Trevel, Tredegar, all folded. I don't know if Lair still have a team, Abd Lair merged with Blaine Gwent.
Yeah, we've had two teams here in sort of Markham and Aberbargain have combined and become Bedwelty because
Yes.
they were struggling.
Mm.
It is the case that we're seeing here, and like you said, people's mentality do have to change, and if you don't change, then you're not here anymore. And so that's why we've tried to be sort of at the front of the curve for us and say, right, we've really got to make sure that we've got that stability in place to take us through on every aspect. And that it
Yeah.
literally has been every aspect that we've had to plan for. And that's why this rugby committee set up and why we do have people in every position of their expertise. And we're still looking to sort of build on that and what we can do and where we go from here.
Yeah.
I know your local rivals, you talked about Barguide, but they're at a higher level, aren't they? They're Division 1 East side. So, who are your local rivals? Who, not right now because you are where you are in the league, but who do you
Yeah.
want to be playing in a couple of years?
But again, that's the big one is probably Bedwelt. You've got Rumney a few leagues above us. Rumney's always a nice, tasty
Yeah.
one. Abertaursug is, I mean, literally, you know what the valleys like. They're walkable. You can
Yeah,
walk to
yeah,
Abertaursug. You
well,
can walk to
Abertaursug's
Rumney.
something new to the yeah.
Yeah, it's down the line. We walk the
Yeah.
line, walk the kids to Abertaursug, come back with back more quickly because you don't want to be hanging around in Abertaursug. But But yeah, there's a few. And what we found over the years is, again, we talk about that everything feeling closer. Some of our bigger rivals perhaps became clubs that were a little bit further away. New Tredegar Chepstow became a bit of a tasty rivalry, even though it's a bit of a trek away. There was a couple of big games, a couple of important games that we're playing against each other that got it, and then that became a rivalry. So yeah, local derby, probably that's where we're looking. But yeah, you find that those ones further away, and then sort of like a trip to Newport is always a tasty one as well. You go down there and play the city boys as they were, and coming up to the valleys, and it creates a different atmosphere that way as well. So it's always fun going down to Newport or a Newport team coming up as well. So it's not always just those local games that get good. I know Steely's sort of local rival guide or whatever he used to do. There's always a few of them. But what I found was it suddenly became those teams were a little bit further away as well. That became a good one. RTB Evervale's always been a bit of a friendly rivalry. I think when I was playing for the seconds a few years ago, we played them so many times they were going to invite us to a Christmas do, I think.
Yeah, my old club.
Yeah.
Does the club have any relationship with the Dragons? Do you get like free match tickets or any community camps going, Steff?
We've done some community camp. We've gone down quite regularly with the minis. We take the
Yeah.
minis down there. They've done their flag bearing. It's really good there. I love going down there with the minis. I've been down there so many times now because I coached my son's team from under sevens up to under 13s when we had that split, and then I started again with my other son from under sevens. So, I might as well have been a season ticket holder. It felt like at times I've been down there so many times and had seen so many games. I gotta say that they have always been good with us and always good. If we reach out, they're always willing to have us. Always, and the kids love it. Playing in the stadium, playing down at Rodney Parade,
Yeah.
out on the pitch at half time or before kick off, and banging the drum and the flames going off. And
Yeah.
I think last time we went down there, it was Motorhead, the game, the Triple
That's
H's
right.
old.
Yeah.
And when you got the kids in, those flames are going up, and that's well, I say the kids, it was me. I'll be honest, I loved it. It's a proper I was ready to play a game myself. But so yeah, the Dragons have been very good with us, and player meet and greets as well, and we've got a relationship not just on the rugby side, but people who know people down there, and so we've had players come up. Reinhard Landman was a great one when he came into the club. He
Friend of
presented
the
our
pod.
Yeah.
yeah.
Friend of the pod, line man. Good bloke.
lovely bloke, and he presented kit to our minis. You know, we just
good.
can you come up on a Thursday night? Yeah, no worries. Let me know where it is. Like you said, where's New Tredegar? And he came up and presented them all with kit. And I think this was at the point where he was sort of at the tail end of his time at the Dragons as well, and already knew he was leaving. So, you know, there was no commitment there. It's not like he needs to build his reputation in the community because he was off.
Well,
So
he kept a house in Newport, or even when he moved to France. So
where everyone wants to be a Newport, don't they?
well, that is true. That is true. Yes,
Rogerstone as well. He's in Rogerstone, which is
Yeah.
my favourite part of Newport. If I had money, I would live in Rogerstone. It's a very nice
Posh
part of
end.
Newport. It is very nice. Yeah.
So I'm going to address the elephant in the room now, Steph.
Bit harsh, but I know I put weight on, but
no.
I'm trying to make a comeback. I'm calling me elephant in the room's not helping.
We're talking Dragons. You famously are a Scarlets fan, despite being the New Tredegar boy.
A man of Gwent, and he's a Turk.
Yeah,
so you're a traitor, Steph, basically.
What the hell's happened
that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Look, all I'm going to say is where I was born and grew, well, not born, but where I was and grew up, I'm under a Cardiff. I'm going to say Cardiff Blues. That's going to upset any that are listening to the pod.
Please say it. It's absolutely fine.
I'm under a Blues postcode, and that's definitely not happening, right? So I can't go off birthright or anything like that. My father was a Llanelli fan way back in the day. Obviously, a club with this. I don't know if you know it. It doesn't get talked about often, but they once beat the All Blacks.
Never.
So
someone should have said something.
It's a little known fact, but you know, it does get brought up occasionally. Right. No, and that was. I mean, my nickname's Gav. What do you want from me, Gav? But no, and then growing up, I grew up. The real reason I became a Scarlet fan, I don't really talk about that often, but is the pettiest reason to become a Scarlet fan ever. And the reason, which I'm sure you'll be shocked at that, Gav. The reason I become a Scarlet fan is because I've got two brothers who are 7 and 10 years older than me. And they were going to watch Pontypridd play, and they went a couple of times. And one night, I don't know why, it was a midweek game, evening kickoff. They were going to watch Llanelli play Pontypridd, and I wanted to go, and they refused to take me. And I thought, stuff them, I want Llanelli to win now then. And so I watched the game, and I was like, come on, I want Llanelli to win this. And then after that, I just kind of stuck with it. And so that's the only reason, really. And then my father said, was a Llanelli fan with the regional game. He's one of those, when whoever plays, you know, he wants him to do well, is kind of his attitude towards it now. But yeah, it's the pettiest reason, but that's the real reason that I'm a Scarlets fan. The only time I've ever said that on a pod or online or anything, that...
that seems fair. You know, kind of you and Robbie Squidge, you know, can both high-profile supporters of other teams, both with connections to the Dragons. I'm just trying to pull you both into the Dragons world.
Well, I've just moved to a Dragons postcode. I'd be the... I give the Scottish fans enough stick for how many South Africans they got. Right? I can't follow suit and become a Dragons fan because I live somewhere different now and apply on residency. I've got to make sure I stick to my guns.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's, yeah. I think you were on the borderlands, weren't you, where you grew up?
We'll let him off then. Let's stick with pro rugby then. So, Welsh rugby, as we all know, is in a difficult place. Next season's going to be interesting. Well, the upcoming season. We know the budgets are coming down now to 4.5. How do you feel we're going to get on, Steph, in terms of all the Welsh teams in the URC? Are you optimistic? Are you confident? It's going to be tough, isn't it? But are you looking forward to it at all?
You know, last year I really struggled. I really struggled through the season last year to engage with it. Which is really difficult when you've got a podcast that you're meant to record every week based around URC rugby. It does make it difficult. I'm always weirdly optimistic with regional rugby, or whatever you want to call it, professional Welsh elite level game, whatever. It's not going to upset anyone, but with regional rugby, I'm always weirdly optimistic towards it. Not always the same with Wales at an international level, but I mean, I feel like it can't get any worse than last season for the Scarlets. It was a very bad season. Again, I talked about when we were in the stadium. It only feels like
come 15th, Steph. You know,
it could have gone worse. To be fair, it could have.
Could have gone worse. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But you know, I said, I talked about us being in stadium. It doesn't feel like that long ago. You know, we were winning the thing. And to be where we were last year felt really difficult. And it was hard to watch, not just because we weren't winning games. We weren't particularly playing well for the first half of the season, maybe a little bit longer as well. I do think there's little bits of light in there. I don't think it's a particularly bad thing to lose some of the big names that have gone, some of the players who are perhaps, again, coming to the tail end of their career. I
Yeah.
think it might be good to refresh and rejuvenate and look what we can do. And I like how many of it's not just being about going out and find, you know, some of the signings actually have been really good throughout
Yeah.
all four teams, I think, actually. I think it's been sort of a bit understated how well they've recruited. And giving youngsters a chances where it worked quite well for Cardiff. I thought, you know, they've starting to pull some things together. Not world beaters yet, don't get me wrong, but you know, players are starting to click. And I think that's the thing, it's gonna take time. You know, essentially most of the regions have got either new coaches that have come in the last couple of years, or as we're seeing with the Ospreys now, you know, Booth is outgoing, so they're going to bring someone new in. There's youngsters coming through, and it does mean changing the style that you play with. It's changing what you do, and so it's going to take a little bit of time to bed in. It's going to be difficult. We're always going to struggle to compete as well, especially on the European stage. You know, when Richie Rees came down and talked, he was talking about the playing budgets in France, and you know, it's money that you can't even comprehend within rugby. I mean, we're sat here talking about how much we've had to work to get our $4,000 through fundraising, and like that's like the red wine budget on a training day for the French teams. So we're always going to struggle to compete in Europe. We're always going to struggle to compete against the likes of Leinster and Munster. But actually, I am weirdly optimistic because I always am. And I don't think the playing budget is the be all and end all. And actually, if you can get those group of players playing together and playing under the style that that coach wants and that like and that embodies that club essentially, you know, I do think every one of them's got a little bit of identity to them. Once you get that to filter in, I think they'll be all right actually.
Don't you think, though, with Scarlets and Dragons as well, I'm not pretending Dragons aren't in this, Ospreys, we all know what the Ospreys' way of playing is, and, you know, I've made it clear on you before, Toby Booth is a good coach, but I find him irritating because of his Ted Lassoisms. But you know,
Find a way, Gav.
Oh, yeah, oh, God, honestly, mate, it's professional sport, it's not magic. But
It is like Ted Lasso, but if he was like the dog mascot, he's got a kind of a dog mascot look about him, hasn't he?
He does look
remember Ruckley? Like he's got a bit of a Ruckley look about him.
Sorry, I'm just looking to the heavens in memory of Ruckley.
R.I.P. Ruckley.
But so they've got a clear way of playing. Sheriff has got Cardiff playing in a particular way. But I think both Scarlets under Dwayne Peel and Dragons, if you ask me what the playing style of both those clubs were, I couldn't tell you.
No.
Yeah, I agree in some respects. I do think, but I'm still the one who argues that I thought we could start to see one under Wayne Pivac, but seemingly I'm in a small minority there as well for Wales, not for Scarlets. I do agree in some sense. I think Scarlet sort of went a bit the wrong way at one point where they were struggling to get the basics right and they went, right, let's just do some mad shit at times. And no, let's until you've got your basics there, you can't do the mad shit. And so I think that's what they sort of dialed back a little bit and what I think they're starting to do. I think it's good that we're relying less as well on just like give Callum Mahoney the ball and see what happens. Because that became our thing at one point. It was like the old give it to Shane. Give it to Callum Mahoney's harder to chant, obviously, but I think like that became an issue where we were just like, right, we need to do something. Give it to Sione Callum Mahoney and see what he can do. See if he can make some ground, and then we'll build off the back of that. So I do think sometimes losing those big name players kind of helps you a little bit because everyone's got to step up and say, oh, well, actually, we've got to do something. We need to create something. I think it is coming a little bit under Peel. I don't think, like I say, you know, it is sort of relatively new days. We've got the same issue with the Dragons of sort of, it feels like chopping and changing with coaches and you know, not without reason as well. You know, there were things that are not working, so maybe it needed to be done. But I think they both just need that stability a little bit to stick with a coach and a game plan and say, right, this is what we're going to run with for a couple of years and see what sticks.
I think the game plan's almost more important than the coach.
Yeah.
You know, kind of having a clear identity.
Yeah.
is more, and I think, and I'm not getting on the Ospreys hype train because they came 8th out of 16. Let's
I think
let's remain grounded. But Booth has got a plan, and he's got a lot out of a group of players who perhaps shouldn't be in 8th place. So I think there is, and Cardiff, as much as, and we've talked about this on the pod, haven't we, Jamie? The kind of Cardiff didn't win many games, but they always looked like they could win games.
They were competitive, whereas, people forget Cardiff won the same amount of. Cardiff fans don't like it when you point this out. Cardiff won the same amount of games as Dragons in all competitions. They won 4 games. But the difference was Cardiff were far more competitive than we were. And they were picking up losing bonus points. They just couldn't turn those tight defeats into victories. But
and
they were
two
more
of those
competitive.
wins were against us as well.
Well, if you took those out of it, because we have this hoodoo against Cardiff, don't we? If you take those away, they only would have won 2 games all season. So it's food for thought there, isn't it?
I don't know if you can call it a hoodoo at the moment, though. Like, you've got to be beating other teams before it becomes a hoodoo. Like,
well,
you can't say Cardiff always beat us when everyone else is always beating you as well.
We have a better record against Munster and Leinster than we do against Cardiff. I'm not even joking. The last time we beat Cardiff in the league now, was 2014. The last time in Europe, overall, was 2015. So it's a really long hoodoo. And there have been so many games where it's been judged by a couple of points. We also happened at the Arms Park on Boxing Day. I do not want to talk about that because that's still a sore point. Even Lloyd Fairbrother was still angry about that, Gav, wasn't he? He was very upset about it, in fairness. It keeps him up at night. I don't blame him. It keeps me up at night as well. But it's just about being competitive for us and hopefully getting a few more wins. But it's just difficult. It's a tough league, isn't it?
It is.
People in Wales don't like it, but it's a bloody tough league. It's so competitive.
It's a good league, as I don't think the league is the issue. I was going to say before, the Scarlets have had an hoodoo for a couple of years against teams in the Northern Hemisphere in South Africa. But it's a good league as well, I think. Like, I genuinely believe, I think the biggest issue isn't the on-field stuff for the ability. I think the biggest issue comes with the way that it's promoted sometimes. And this isn't me looking for a job. No, I'm doing media for Tredegar, by the way. I'm not saying anything, but that when you watch Super Rugby, everything's completely over the top. Like, we've got the commentators over there. You've got Justin Marshall shouting after every big tackle, and I think a lot of that buys into it more than how good the games are as well. I know Super Rugby's a bit more flashy, maybe, and you get a lot more of those sort of bigger scorelines. Maybe, again, less so over the last couple of seasons when it's not been a great. But even when it's not a great product, they really push that up, and the commentators and the pundits and the way things are done, it's almost Americanized in sort of the way that they do things, and I think that buys into it a lot. Whereas being Celtic, we kind of do the opposite, and we kind of tone it all down a bit, and we kind of we don't want to oversell this now. Like, no, that's literally your fucking job, but make it sound as big and as bold and as brash as we can be.
TNT do it though with the English Premiership as well. They massively overhype the product, don't they?
Exactly.
So maybe that's what we need to do then. Overhype it a bit more. You're saying?
I think so. I think
Sharks, wouldn't you? You'd rather watch Sharks than watch Newcastle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, so I would.
Yeah, and that's exactly, like, most of the teams in there are fantastic teams. Glasgow Warriors have just won it, and a competitive, like, they're all competitive in Europe. It's not like we're playing the dirge or say it's the teams who would, we hear it a lot, like, but what would they do in the English Premiership? Well, actually, quite well, I think, because when they're playing them in Europe, again, it's at least competitive. We're not looking at English teams running away with everything. You get maybe 2 English teams in Europe who are strong last season and will be, but it's not like they wouldn't compete. I do think it's the product around everything else is a bit of the issue.
Leinster and Munster would finish in the top 4 in the Premiership.
Yeah,
every
easily.
season, and would win it more seasons, I'd say.
I would say Glasgow are good enough to compete in there. You're looking at the South African sides, all right, they've had it. You've generally got 2 good South African teams and 2 not good South African teams. They just change which ones quite regularly. I don't know what's going on there. We talk like they've decided they against consistency. They're all going to have a go. You have a run at the title this year. We'll take a step back, but exactly that. But I do think that's where it comes from. It comes from the sort of selling of it and sort of the way the commentary's done, the way that, and not because I will slag off, a load of the commentators, because that's not the case, or the pundits. So I do think they're generally good. I just think the attitude that they bring to it is a little bit different, and the way they approach is a little bit different, and maybe we just need to hype it up a little bit more.
And if you watch Super Rugby games, sometimes there'll be like hardly anyone there. But the way particularly Justin Marshall is talking about it,
Yeah,
you'd
it feels
swear
full.
they're playing in front of 200,000 people. Like there'll be 6,000 people rattling about the massive stadium. And I think we've never quite got our heads around it, and Jamie's right, like TNT does it with the Premiership as well. We've never quite got around the idea of selling the product. They're all the best players in the world playing in this league. You've got representatives from the two strongest nations in the world at the minute, Ireland and South Africa.
Yeah.
And why aren't we pushing that?
It blows my mind that they've got a production team that make a lot of documentaries, whose name I've forgotten. But they are doing a lot of the production. They've got all exclusive rights to all the footage in the game. Why are they not creating a documentary as well? Why are we not seeing behind the scenes of those clubs?
Yeah.
Why are we not doing a all or nothing style documentary? Pick one club. You don't need to, go out to them all. Pick one club for a season. It doesn't take a lot. It takes a camera crew to go there and create something and that you can buy into.
It's part owned by Rockefeller, like you would imagine.
Yeah.
A
True,
promotions company which promotes Beyonce, Jay-Z, Cardi B, all these people
Yeah.
would get a bit of admittedly, I'm not comparing Beyonce to the Dragons, but
I think you should.
but
I try to compare it in my head, and no, it doesn't work at all. I'm trying to, but no, I don't. No, I don't at all. Speaking of Dragons, then there is one bit of Dragons news that was released this week. Wales lock Ben Carter has been named Dragons captain for the new season. So the 23-year-old from Caldicott made his debut for the region back in November 2020 and has gone on to make 57 appearances. So Carter becomes the second youngest player to captain the Dragons behind Ashley Smith. Carter said, "I'm really proud. This is my home club full of talents. It was a huge honour to be chosen to lead the side forward." And then Dave Flanger said, "Carter is an outstanding player who has all the qualities needed to lead our club forward." Now, I don't know about you, Gav. When I found out it was Ben Carter, I was surprised, but pleasantly surprised. I didn't see that one coming because I thought they were going to go down the safe option of, Steff Hughes, Harry Keddy, Rodri Williams, and George Knott has captained the Dragons in the previous two pre-season friendlies. I think it's a good move. I quite like this, Cole. What do you think about Ben Carter being Dragons captain?
I think, kind of it's sensible, isn't it? Because Carter is going to be about for most of the season. He's on the fringes of Welsh selection, but I think, he's fifth or sixth cab off the rank probably. So we'll keep him for most of the season. He's a good on-field leader. He gets around. There's the industry there, and he's going to be in that team, isn't it? Because the problem with Steff Hughes wasn't in the team half the time. But if you look at our second row options, well, Ben Carter's going to be in there, isn't he? It's going to be one of Ben and either Steve Cummins or Shane Lewis Hughes at second row, unless they're playing Shane Lewis Hughes at 6. Yeah. But I'd say, kind of Cummins is probably now on the pecking order in front of Screech.
I don't know, but I think this has been done to push him on a little bit as well, Ben Carter, and I think it's a really good move. And I'm a big fan of Ben Carter. I'm not just saying this because he is a Dragon, but I think he's undervalued and underrated by supporters of other regions. And I think part of it is because he plays for the Dragons. Because I'm telling you, if he played for Cardiff, he'd be in the Wales squad more, or be hyped up a lot more than what he is. But because he plays for Dragons, he don't seem to get the respect. But I really like him. Do you like Ben Carter, Graf?
Yeah, a lot. I'm a big fan of it. It's 23, you said he is now. But what was he? 19 was he when he made his debut? 18, 19?
I think he was. Yeah, he's been around. But he's made 57
20 when he played for Wales.
Yeah, so
he's young.
So he's young, but he's still got that experience. And again, we talked about sort of long-term planning. That seems exactly it.
Yeah.
You make him captain, and as long as you can retain him at the club, which, like you said, it's my home club. He's already using that suggests he's not looking to go anywhere else. Well, that's a long-term plan. I agree with you. I think he's one of the best options we've got at second row, sort of not at the Dragons, but in Wales, and
Yeah.
being 23 in the second row, you would have thought he's not getting anywhere near the potential he's going to hit yet. You know, he's not going to mature for another couple of years into the player that hopefully he can be. I think he's a fantastic player, and obviously he's doing the right things behind the scenes as well to be made captain.
Yeah.
And you know, we're seeing, you know, captains becoming younger and younger.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of a captain in a pack. I think a captain should never be a back.
No, I agree. I don't like that
So,
either.
yeah,
Not outside of 10. I think if you're a captain outside of 10, that's...
but then if you're 9 or 10, you kind of should be taking some sort of control and having conversations with the ref anyway. So if you're captain, I feel like you're losing a player who's got that game management then, because actually you've made your captain the guy who should be controlling everything anyway. So I'm a big fan of a back row or second row. I think it nails it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I think he's got a bags of potential, and he already looks good. He's already one of the players that I enjoy watching, and I think he's doing his job very well for the age that he is, especially. I think it's a great shout. And him and David Jenkins for Wales,
Yeah,
feels very nice for the future. They're 23 and whatever David is he 20? Is he 21? Like
22, I think.
That feels quite nice for long-term planning.
Chris Shuns is 23 as well. You know, there are big
Babies.
lump second rows coming through.
Yeah, we got a good stock of second rows in Wales, because do you remember when
When did
Alwyn
that
Jones
happen?
retired?
Hang on.
Everyone was like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do?" But we
You
have
say
got
that.
some really good locks coming through. No,
You say that, but Corey Hill was in the last squad.
oh, I know.
Who was a good second row, if not slightly problematic, and now playing in you know pub rugby in Japan.
Good
he was good for the
row.
Dragons. I will say
he was very good.
Oh, he's
shit of a
excellent.
bloke, but for the Dragons, in fairness, if you're picking like one of the best starting 15 Dragons have done, he would be in the conversation because he was excellent for us. So
Absolutely.
Certainly one of the best second rows of the last 10 years played for Dragons easily. Like him and Rowlands probably.
Yeah, when you put aside the debt collecting, then he was a pretty good.
Well, everyone's got to have a hobby.
Oh, it was awful.
Amateur debt collecting. There's a friend of mine, his dad. I've gone off a tangent here.
What a cock up that was, though, by Wales. And for Gatland to come out and go, I didn't anticipate
and making
backlash. I'm like, are you fit, Gatland? Everyone on social media has been moaning. He had reporters, questioning his decision. And he said he honestly couldn't see the backlash that was coming. Come on, mate. Come on.
No, that was a terrible... I think Gatland's now given up with dealing with the media in a sensible way, though. I don't care.
I think he's given up entirely, haven't he?
I was just going to say, I would have stopped that Gatland's given up. That's what it feels like.
It does, doesn't it?
It feels a little bit like he's gone through that full Jose Mourinho transformation, doesn't it? That he started out and he was, he's incredible. Maybe it's something to do with sort of as coaches and managers, as their hair goes whiter, for some reason they just become a bit madder. Yeah. Like I don't know what's going on. Jose, when he was looking young and fresh and dark-haired, and then Gatland, the more he's lost his as well, the more he's turned into a bit of a lunatic.
If Toby Booth ends up as Wales coach, so I'm going to start supporting England.
Oh no, that'd be brilliant.
When they said that he was leaving at the end of the year, at the end of the season, I did think, is this another one of those? Right, we're going to build him up to be the successor. It does kind of feel a bit like that.
What's wrong with that, Gav? Toby Booth would be a fantastic coach for Wales, don't you think?
No,
he's a good coach. You don't rate him at all, do you?
I know.
or at least a mascot.
I just it's this. Oh, we'll find a way. No,
but it works. To be fair,
they did find a way. To be fair,
but that wasn't because of his cringy Ted Lassoism. It's because he's a decent coach. He's surrounded by proper coaches. They have a clear game plan. Communicate that. Don't give me all this sappy nonsense or this group of players. No, this is our plan. This is what we're going to do. This is going to win us games. I don't want coaches to... I don't care what coaches' personalities are like. I care what they do on the pitch.
Well, see, when it comes to coaches, we want TNT and Gav still wants Premier Sport.
Yeah, he
That's
does.
what he just give me the facts. Give me the
serious
games.
analytical stuff. Yeah.
As you know, Steph, I'm not a fan of fun. There's no
You are
pleasure.
not a fan of it. We talk about this quite regularly. Gav
It's
doesn't like fun.
it is worth listening to our one of our other feeder pods, the Ospreys Erie, they were talking about Toby Booth. I just think it sounds weird because we talked about it on Rap. In February, mind, Lance Bradley was saying, yeah, I want him signed up to the club long term. 7 months later, he's fucking off. And you're like, well, what's going on there then? It just seems a bit weird to me. I think there's more to it than what's being led on. I really do. I honestly think there's more to it than
well,
meets the eye.
I think Mark Jones, great
Good replacement.
appointment.
Yeah.
Great appointment. One of the
And
best young
Tips.
coaches. Well, I say
Tips is
young
defence
coaches in
coach.
Wales. Yeah.
I don't think it matters who coaches them though, because I've spoke to Ospreys fans, and as soon as they move into St. Helens, everything's going to be fine. So
Oh yeah,
don't
yeah.
worry.
They'll win the
That's
European Cup.
yeah, that's the only issue that's held them back all these years.
Wow. Good luck to her by saying
I'm glad it's a Dragons ball because I slagged off the Ospreys and the Blues on you now. So
right, let's wrap this up then. So, Steph, what message would you like to send to your supporters during this transitional period for the club?
look, I know it's easy, but just get down here and support us. You know, give us
Yeah.
everything you can, whether that be in the I want to say in the stands. That's what kind of level of club we are. We haven't got stands. Tell you that much.
On the sides.
Yeah, come behind the railings, under the trees. We've got one very problematic tree as well. So this sums up the community game, and again the little bit of personality in it. There's one tree that overhangs the pitch, and if the ball is kicked wrong, that ball can sometimes stay in off the tree and create havoc. And despite how many times we ask the council to cut the tree back, they don't always. But yeah, just get down here, support in any way you can. If you want to get involved, be that as playing, be that helping us put out post protectors, coming down there, really sell the game. You know, we found ourselves in a difficult place sort of 6 months ago, and we genuinely, you know, Craig said it in his speech, that coming into the season, I didn't even know if I'd have a club to be captain of. And I think that sums it up perfectly. You know, we were without the money, we were up Schitt's Creek, and our paddle fund was non-existent.
Who have you got Saturday?
Saturday we got the first game of the season. We're playing Girling, I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, Girling at home. So 2:30 kickoff, as it almost always is. Get down there, give the boys all the support you can. Be nice and loud from a sideline. Show them how much you care. And do you know what? If you're not part of the community game, if you don't have a club, if you don't go anywhere, come down, come and see it, come watch the game, come to the club afterwards. The biggest change that we've made to this club in the past 6 months that is going to absolutely revolutionize the way this club is run is that we've got rid of sausage and chips forever. That we've got more options for players coming off the game, because some of the boys that have played for sort of 10 years or more were 75% sausage by the time we got here, because that's all they've eaten for 10 years. So, but come down, feel the atmosphere after the game. We're one of those clubs that you know, we don't have in the old school way of we will still have a sing song after the game. You know, the boys will get up. There's usually a bottle of something that's been emptied that someone will use as a mic. We're very much that kind of club, and we're a very welcoming club. The atmosphere is unbelievable. And I say when we turned up that first game or at home after pre-season, we played Hollybush, which is another one of the local derbies for us. They had a couple of players who had left us recently, and so it added that extra bit of spice, and we beat them. Went back to the club afterwards, and you can feel the atmosphere within the place. You know, the place is bouncing, and I say come be part of that. You know, come be part of the club, and that's what community rugby offers that the professional game can't quite as much. You know, you can turn up on a Saturday and watch, you know, the Dragons, the Scarlets, the Ospreys, the Blues, whatever you might want to do, but you can really be involved in the community game. So come be involved, come be here, come enjoy it, come talk to the boys and see what it means to them as well, because it does mean a lot. It means everything to them and to the community around you.
Good stuff. I think that's a good way to end it. Steph, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with everything at New Tredegar. I hope the rebuild works and you climb up the leagues, because I think that'd be great. You know, it'd be a great story. So best of luck to all of you down there.
Cheers, boys, and thanks for having me on, and best of luck to the Dragons as well. No doubt I'll do a couple of games this year, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Excellent. Yeah, come to Rodney Parade. That would be don't be a stranger. That would be pretty good. Gav, thank you as always, and thank you for listening and downloading this episode. We'll be back next week for our season preview, but until then, take care and goodbye.